All right, welcome everybody. The date is November 8th, 2022, and this is the bi-weekly Cloud Custodian community meeting. We canceled we canceled the last meeting 2 weeks ago due to KubeCon, and we could talk about that a little bit if people are interested. So we have 4 weeks worth of stuff to go through. If this is your first meeting, hello and welcome. Usually what we do is we have an open agenda here that I post in the Slack channel the day, a few hours before. So if there's anything that you want to add to this, feel free to do so. You can also do it during the meeting itself, depending on how the discussion is going. And then I have a script that goes through the pull requests that have been coming in over the past, normally 2 weeks, but it's going to be 4 weeks this time. And these are items that you'd like to see greater discussion in the community, like during this call. So the way that works is I have a huge list. If something is interesting to you or you want to talk about, or you're an author or you're waiting for a review or something, stick a :boom there. And that's what makes this little boom thing here in the rendered notes. And that's what we'll, after we get the agenda, we kind of do a little PR party there and review those. How's everyone feeling today? In a good mood? Hopefully. Okay. The first thing I'd like to address is we're still migrating to Slack. So far, we have about 200 people on there, and on the website and stuff, we've now pointed the links and everything to point people to Slack. And all of that is going pretty well. We're getting decent activity. However, I would like to get more of the people over from Gitter over actively. So if you have friends or something on there, or you see activity on there, if you can encourage them to join the Slack, that'd be fantastic. We're almost done with the archive. So we have a bot that will, as an open source project, we can't really afford the paid plan. So there are open source tools out there that will allow us to maintain a history. And Marco Ceppi is working on that. And we're just going to stick those on the website as a full text searchable archive. He's got it all working. He's just unfamiliar with certain aspects of NPM that are driving him crazy. So we were supposed to get that done earlier, but he's saying he's making good progress there. And then the first item that someone has put on the agenda is this one: AWS Security Group add ALB WAF v2 enabled filter. Whose is this? All right, I got to move some windows around here while we get to the.
Looks like that one of the PRs from Intuit, although I have all the PRs later on. Not sure who put it up there first.
Okay.
Yeah, I put it up for discussion because I had commented on that one, and I figured it was good for discussion because I didn't have a. It felt like it was a really specific. It was answering a very specific question, and I wasn't sure if we could answer a more general question, like if there's a security group, can we try to have some way to filter on security group usage that isn't specifically let's query ELBs and let's look at if there's WAF v2 enabled on them, but something like I guess adjacent to the existing related resource filters, or like a sub policy. I couldn't figure out how to do it, but that's why it seemed like a good discussion for a community meeting or a more focused discussion separately. I just didn't have a useful enough comment in the PR other than let's talk about it. But no, Hito is not in this meeting, so maybe we punt that and try to talk separately. Unless you have more context, Aaron.
I can talk about it a little bit. I don't know if Stephen, you can talk more about it too. But my understanding here is that with security group, we want to be flexible and allow, let's say, quad 0, meaning allow like 0.0.0/0, if and only if it is used in, let's say, an ALB, and that ALB is protected by a WAF rule. This is pretty much for the use case of us moving away from, I would say, doing whitelisting based off IPs at the security group level and more at the WAF level. Because with security group, it's not flexible in terms of, hey, things are more static. There's limit on how many you can include in a security group. So we just go with allowing quad 0 while protecting it at the WAF level. And of course, this is we only want to allow it if the resource that is attached to is supported by, say, a WAF, which in this case is, for example, AOB.
So I think it's an interesting use case. Thank you for giving some details on it. I do wonder from a policy expression perspective if we broke it apart a little bit more. Like we currently have a security group filter for most network attached resources and a subnet one as well. If instead we added ingress egress on those security group filters, that would allow for saying, what does this resource have does this resource using a security group that has a 0x0 on ingress? And then you would do does it have a WAF attached to it as a separate filter? Because I think does that get to the same goal and also potentially give us decompose it so that's more useful for other use cases as well.
Maybe. Can you just scroll down real quick on the README here, or not README, the description of use cases?
Yeah.
Yeah, because plus, wouldn't you also want to restrict it to internet-facing ALBs, right? If it's internal, who cares if it's 0x0?
And you could do that at the ALB resource. I was going to suggest something like that, and the reason where I think that is a really useful enhancement to the security group filter on resources anyway. I know we've gotten questions similar for EC2, like let's find EC2 instances that have a security group which allows ingress from this and like that sort of combo filter. I think that's helpful. What I think it wouldn't cover is if you were looking for security groups and all of the ALBs that it was attached to like had WAFs enabled, but then that security group was also being used with an EC2 instance directly or something. And it seems like that's a case that they'd want to catch from the security group level rather than being able to handle it all from the ALB side.
Yeah, I do wonder about that. Like, why wouldn't, if this is primarily focused on ALB, why don't we tackle it from the ALB side?
Yeah, I
think the problem is the security group can also then be used outside of the AOB, and in that case, that's bad.
So you're saying you want security groups that are only allowed to be used within ALB?
Yes.
And going forward, you want that to cover any resource that can have a WAF protection in front of it? Is that the
Yes.
larger? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So here's another thought. Why does it matter if the security group has 0.0.0? Let me rephrase this. So if you have an internet-facing ALB, don't you just require that it have the WAF? Or are you only requiring the WAF if it's 0.0.0.0? Because we have a similar use case, and we're just taking the tact of you simply put the WAF rule on it regardless. And that way I don't care what's inside your security group because we know we've got the WAF.
So you're saying if it has 0.0.0, just require the WAF.
I'm saying if it's an internet-facing ALB, just require the WAF and don't even care about the contents of the security group. Because if it's internet-facing, just assume it's going to have 0.0.0 in it.
Mm-hmm. Can't answer that question. I need Nahito here. Steven, do you know?
Not totally. So what's the if we scroll down and look at the policy? So this can be used by something outside of WAF, right? 0.0.0. Yeah, I think you summarized the use case correctly, Darren. Like basically, if something is opened up, and for ALBs, we want to make sure that it's using this WAF v2.
Yeah, I'm thinking like though that this is the problem is like effectively we're prioritizing one particular network attached resource over all the other ones, and it's a very specific logic for this use case, and that doesn't feel right. Like the alternative to me is to approach it from a network attached resource perspective and do it as for the existing security group filter on network attached resources, being able to do an ingress egress filter on that. So then you could be like, do I have an EC2 instance that has 0x0 and is also public facing? Because some of the network attached resources are just don't have a public facing endpoint necessarily. But that would require the expansion of this policy to all network attached resources to do it from the inverse. Effectively, you would be flagging resources that are using bad security groups, or bad security groups, so to speak, as opposed to flagging the security groups which are being used by bad things. There is a way for us to generically dereference some of the security groups back to their resources. It is tricky though. Effectively, we have to like parse out the descriptions on the attached the resources that are attached to the security group. But
So we're saying that it's okay for a security group to have quad 0 as long as we're talking about ALBs that have that a specific v2 WAF attachment.
so, I mean, wouldn't you conversely also say that all internet-facing ALBs have to have a WAF?
Yeah, that was sort of my point, which is, if your WAF rules are a superset, or, if your WAF rules are, the superset of the IPs that you're going to allow, then who cares what the security group has in it? Can have more, it can have less at the end of the day.
That security group can be used by other resources, I guess.
Right. So,
Right, but
so,
wouldn't there
I
be
mean,
other policies on those resources policing its usage?
one other thought is if you ensure that all public-facing ALBs have a WAF, then you effectively, at that point, we could potentially have a generic filter here that is what resource types is this security group allowed? Like flag a security group based on which resource types are attached to it. That decomposes the problem a little bit better and makes it a little bit more useful. So I could be like, hey, anything with 0x0, I only want ALB and I don't know, EC2 to have it, let's say. And at that point where it would look a little different, effectively we would describe all the ENIs that have a particular security group. And you could do the ingress filter on 0x0. We'd find all the ENIs that are attached, that the security group's attached to. We would parse out their descriptions to map them back to resource types, and then the filter would allow you to specify which resource types you want to allow to use this.
Yeah, and we
That would
actually
also
just
flag it
merged a
without-
PR. We just merged a PR from Naruhito recently that adds an interface type annotation from the used filter on security groups. So
interface type is relatively new. I don't know that it, I know this is relatively new in the last year or so. I know it does get to it. I don't know how well it's adhered to. Before, when I've had to like do this type of analysis, like particularly for flow logs, a raw flow log analysis, that we'd have to like, there was like this weird description of, or like for everything. It's actually in Custodian, and I'll find a link. I'll drop it in. But you're right. If interface type is actually well adopted by the service teams, then that might actually be the simplest way to get the same answer.
So
If
then we
it's
would
the
say
field I'm
security
thinking
groups.
of, it's not. At least it wasn't the last I looked, about
Yeah,
say
damn.
6 months ago.
Yeah, it's no fun because parsing out the description, I know we've had to do that in the past. But yeah, then the idea would be from the security group side, say this is only used by ALBs, and then have a separate ALB policy to ensure that they're all WAF enabled, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was able to use
Also
it
check.
for like, I have a tag for VPC attached Terraform lambdas to do teardown, which uses interface type. So like, there's definitely services that are using it pretty regularly, but it's unclear if it's been universally adopted. I guess we could check on that. But that feels like a better path forward than trying to do the triple logic or do the multi-hop inside of a single filter.
I'll at least drop a comment on that issue. I don't want to take the whole, but thanks. This is helpful stuff. We'll have to come back to this.
I think
Thanks,
the other
Aaron
thing
and
the other reason why Nahito has this PR in, I think, is it's not just the fact that the security group has to be with an AOB that has a WAF. It has, I think, he also wants to make sure that it is attached to the right WAF rule.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if you want the same WAF rule across all of your ALBs?
Yes.
Okay. Because
If-
that I mean, that sounds
if-
like it might jive with the same thing then. If we say this security group is only used by ALBs in one policy, and then another policy says all ALBs have this WAF rule, then that might cover it, yeah?
Mhm. Maybe.
I don't know, that at least gives
Possibly.
some valuable update to the PR.
Can you guys add a comment to that one?
Yeah, I'm gonna log and feel free, Darren, Steve, anybody jump in if I misrepresent what you're saying on this meeting. I don't want to derail, but it seems like a sensible thing and a good discussion to have.
Are you adding as a comment to the PR?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, AJ.
Okay, moving on while you type, because we've got a bunch to go through here. Pertucci found some cache error.
Yeah, this one showed up in one of our accounts that had like 100,000 plus resources. So I'm not sure if this is something we should look at, but we are trying to figure out if we can get this resolved by doing some cleanup with cache disabled. Yeah, my guess is that the account being old has some like inconsistent data format or something, which is kind of corrupting the cache. But I'm not sure.
And I know AJ has an opinion on this, but is probably still typing into that other PR.
Yeah, the traceback should be on the issue. Related to AJ's PR on caching the bucket location, I think that definitely has performance enhancements on long run policies with regards to S3.
Yeah, Kapil had a suggestion, a much simpler suggestion, as he often does, and I love that. Instead of going through caching gymnastics to try to share a worker state across C7N workers, we might just let folks specify an output bucket region, so we don't have to look it up in the first place. So if that sounds like a reasonable thing to you, then we can say, all right, let's let's not do this other stuff. I think if there's any risk to that, it's that if people don't specify it, it might not be like you can run into those weird issues at scale, and it might not be obvious how to get out of them. But having that as an option would help you and Custodian as well.
Yep, absolutely. I don't think we have been running in a lot of S3 related failures lately. The one that we ran into was not related. It was something where we were getting throttled on fetching ECS metadata. And we were able to get that resolved with a 403 setting. But yeah.
Hey, Pratyush, thanks for commenting and including the timing numbers. That's helpful for that large scale.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, AJ, and you'll leave a comment on the issue then?
Yes. Got two.
Oh, you're two for two, so let's try to get one that's not yours. E7N left. I asked John to join, but he was not able to make it. Sonny, were you able to make it? Sorry, I can't see my screen very well.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the C7 left stuff, big shout out to John, Wayne, and Kapil that have been working on that. But basically, the initial cut on some useful functionality around doing policies against your infrastructure as code, specifically Terraform here, has been released. So you should be able to pip install C7 left. Right now, it does require Python 3.10 or above, mostly for, I think, the TF parse wheel. I think we're only publishing in 3.10. But if you install TF parse locally from source, you can run in 3.9 as well. The basic gist is that this will produce a output onto the console showing which policies have resulted in which IAC has resulted in a policy failure. So here you can see that you run against the policy directory of policies, and the -d is signifying your Terraform directory. And here it says this failed due to the policy that you have in your policy directory. It also will show the description of the policy. I think this README is a little bit out of date. And then we also have a demo from the KubeCon presentation that we did, as well as from the governance as code day stuff that Kapil did.
Yeah, on the list, I posted the playlist to the governance as code day videos. I'll make sure that makes these notes as well. And as soon as the CNCF publishes the talk, I'll send that link to the list. They haven't published those yet.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Does this take into consideration Terraform modules as well? Because
yes, yeah,
got it.
Yeah, so this is more so like this is a static analysis of the actual Terraform code itself, as well as the modules. And if I recall correctly, the TF parse module basically does all the stuff in the background to pull down your stuff, pull down your modules.
Got it. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Sonny. Any other questions on the Terraform stuff? Great, thanks. Tencent Cloud, Kapil, I think that work is just continually being merged. Anything of consequence? I don't think so.
No. Our container get merged in.
Awesome. And this brings us up for a release, Sonny. We had said that we're going to try the second Tuesday of every month, and that's next Tuesday. But we also did a release during KubeCon as we were trying to get all that stuff landed. So where are we standing at right now?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. There's a regression that came up that was fixed around like date time JSON output stuff. So that's gone in. Maybe we want to take a look at the caching and the S3 output stuff, and we want to get that in before the next release.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly not a mandate that we release next week, but I do want to try to keep on the regular cadence that we've been doing. So probably next week or the week after, worst case.
Okay. Darren, did we get that Boto thing that you had pointed out?
Yes, and the Boto 3 update, yeah, that we want to get in as well.
Yeah.
That was
missing on the last release.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure we get that because we're at KubeCon when you were asking about it, and I was like, uh-oh. All right, anything else release related? All right, cool. Good luck next week then, Sonny. All right. Any other items before we get on to PRs or any other announcements or major deals? Anyone have anything on fire, something that they need help with? All right, moving on. Let's look at these here. Add a manage policy filter
to EC2 resource type. I believe Sunny already did the initial review, but it was a little bit unclear to us on the direction you want us to update or fix it. So hopefully you can expand on what you're trying to say here.
Unfortunately, I'd written a comment and then accidentally refreshed and lost all of my stuff. And then after that, I was out sick for a week. So, the basic gist here is that one, I think we want this on the IAM profile resource as well. And there's an existing class, so we could subclass for that to basically make it so we're not really adding too much code here. And then based off of that, you could subclass that for the EC2 filter as well.
I figured that's what you want us to do. So I actually have some code written up that I think that's what you are asking for too. So we should be able to get this PR updated fairly quickly then. Okay.
I actually had started progress on that too, but I was out sick, so I was never able to get back to you. But that's the general gist.
Right.
All right.
Yep, makes sense. A quick question on that one. So Darren, do we kind of want to call out the general direction that we want to go with this? Like basically we want to add an action to this as well. Right now the filter is supporting the ability to kind of filter down our resources.
I think it's worth discussing that here too. So this, I would say, is just the first part of what we want to do, which is to detect if an EC2 has a managed policy or not. And then after that, if we detect that it doesn't, we need to take some action. Mainly here, we want to then attach that managed policy to it. So that's the action that we need to do. Steven, what is the exact question you want to do with respect to that? I think it's the question I had, do we want to have an action that is smart and know that, oh, okay, this EC2 doesn't have an AMI profile, and I'll go ahead and create it, or it has an AMI profile, but it doesn't have any associate role. Then I'll create that role, and then I'll attach the managed policy to it. Is it okay to have such action?
Right. Ultimately, we care about a specific policy being attached to an instance profile of an EC2 instance. But in the action, we wanted to go the route of having a default instance profile or a default role if none exists, and that would be included in the set policy action basically. So basically, we wanted to have it smart enough to be able to handle the use cases of what happens when there's no role and there's no instance profile.
So wait, there already is a set instance profile action on EC2 resources.
Correct.
Okay, I thought I misunderstood that that had to be added. My bad.
So it does, but it needs to be added in the context of setting the policy. So like if you are allowing people to have their own instance profile, we still want to be able to check if there is, say, a policy attached to that role that's attached to the instance profile. If there is no instance profile, then in that same action, we'd like to be able to add it by having a default instance profile and a default role.
Okay, I see what you mean. So we did it with multiple policies. One that just forces all EC2s that have no instance profile into our default, and then I had a second one that just looks for EC2 in the assume role trust policy and attaches a managed policy whether you want it or not. Even if it's not being used, I don't care. If there's a role with EC2 in the trust policy, we attach our managed policy.
Yeah, I was going to say a better way of getting to this in sense of, because it's really doing the action on the role. So being able to filter the role based on either trust policy, potentially add another filter for having an instance profile. Feels like the right way to do the mandatory attachment of the policy for things that are attachable to EC2.
So you'd basically be adding it to all roles that have the EC2 trust policy.
Yeah, even if it's not actually being attached to an instance or used as an instance profile. I just took the cast a wide net and figure if eventually it's attached, then it'll already have the policy.
Potentially we can even target it a little bit more narrowly. If we want to add code for it, we could do some form of EC2 role with a filter for has an instance profile to be more explicit beyond the trust document. Although the trust document is viable and works, but if you wanted to have an additional layer.
I also took that approach because I don't know, it seems to me that instance profiles were a mistake by AWS that they just haven't figured out how to get rid of. So just work off the role because that's a real resource.
It seems like a strange, it's like, why not just use the role? I don't know why. It seems like a legacy artifact of some sort.
It's probably from EC2 Classic before they even really had IAM, right?
Right. There may be some gaps in that. We can take it back and look at it. I think what we wanted to do is also be able to default to a specific role when no role exists, which would also be part of the action. So like basically,
but that notion is really a separate policy on EC2 that just says, hey, if there's no instance role, then let's attach this. So that's the existing set instance profile.
Also, if I'm recalling correctly, that has to be done in specific states. Like if it's pending or something like that, you can't attach a role. My policy gibberish here. Maybe that was INDS v2.
So it sounds like the recommendation is not to have that one Uber action that can do all those things, but rather to split it into different actions and different policies.
Yeah, it sounds like two policies. One for the roles that if they're EC2 assumable, does your set policy, and then one on EC2 for set the instance profile. I think the upside is there's also nothing to write besides the policy in that context. Like it's not clear that you need code changes.
These were the very first remediation policies I used. I don't know, about 2 years ago, so I know they work.
We also had a requirement on to report it on the config side. Something, I'm not sure how applicable this is, but we noticed that IAM instance profile it's not a supported config resource. So we right now we're reporting from the EC2 side. We're saying, hey, here's all your EC2 instances that have, you know, an issue type thing. And there wasn't an easy way for us to determine how do we report that, you know, differently.
So I think we had a custom config rule. AWS Professional Services originally gave us a config rule for this, and I think it was a custom one. And what I found is it's kind of random when it worked or not and how long it took for it to work, which is why I ditched it. But I suppose if you're not using it as remediation, if you're just using it for reporting, then you don't care so much. I might be able to dig that up for you.
Yeah, I mean, the IAM, like you could do it on the IAM role per se, as well, like which is directly natively supported. So you can do config. I forgot the terminology. Config poll rules for supporting, which basically lets config say, hey, even though config doesn't support it, you can use anything that's got a CloudFormation associated to it to CloudFormation type. But those get a little bit janky, I think.
The problem is you just want to show the roles that have EC2 trust policies, and I don't think query right now is supported. I think we actually have a PR out for that, but we want to just have a subset. If we were just to report the roles and just be like, here's all the roles that you know are related to EC2.
You can do that. Right, you can do that right now. Like if you had a custodian policy which just says that's in config rule mode, config rule mode, and just says, hey, this is have a trust policy for EC2. Okay, then it flags for this config rule. And then you can look at that directly in the config rule UI. Sorry, the config UI. Like it. Sorry.
Not sure I follow that.
So your goal is you want to be able to do some reporting of this back in from the AWS config console. If you had a policy that just flagged all the EC2, the IAM roles that are assumable by EC2, that would address that use case, right? Or am I missing something?
I believe so, yeah. We need to be able to report, basically, right now we're reporting from the EC2 side. We need to be able to report this somehow to say like, hey, these are the instance profiles that have an issue. Instance profile is not supported by config, so then I guess we would have to do it from the role side. And then, we would need to basically be talking about the subset of roles, the ones that, are able to have that trust policy with EC2. And right now, that would probably have to be done by query, which is not supported by config poll rule at the moment, I believe.
Sorry, but you don't have to do config poll rule mode because you're doing an IAM role, and an IAM role natively supports this. And the trust document actually should be in the config native description. So there's no config poll. It's not a config poll mode. It's just a config rule mode against IAM.
So pretty much all of our config rules use config poll rule. We just have a requirement for a daily check on that instead of using kind of like, I guess the native like mode type. We're using that for all of our config reporting policies.
I hesitate to guess why, but I mean, you could, if you want to do a config poll rule mode, you could. Like it doesn't, but just doing it on the IAM role, and I mean, it works the same way per se. We're not in config poll rule mode. We're not querying from config because config poll rule mode is effectively for resources that config doesn't support, so it has no actual, like it doesn't use config at all except to report results.
15-minute warning. I don't want to interrupt the discussion, but I know we have.
Yeah, Darren, let's circle back on the the approach for this one. Thank you guys for the input on different ways to tackle this one.
Actually, Steve, I think you're next again.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah. So this one, I believe it's pretty straightforward. We've added this for some of the other ones. Added this to Elasticsearch most recently. We're just trying to add it to EFS. It's basically just a reusable filter. I think Sunny checked this one out for Elasticsearch, and before that, I think we added it to SQS. AJ, I think you had a look at that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we also just added this for Secrets Manager as well. That was the most recent one, I think. But I'll take a look at this today.
Cool. Thanks.
All right. SES edition 7874.
I believe this one, Kalai originally did it as a new resource type, I believe, and Kapil has given the feedback that it should really be a filter of the account resource type. So Kalai has went ahead and updated to do that. So Kapil, if you can take a look at it again, great.
Or if anyone else wants to take a look, they're welcome to it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody else feel like doing a review on this one?
Yeah, let me take a look at that one then. There's I hear crickets.
I'll keep fishing for reviews until I get them. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, after KubeCon, Kapil had to physically move like his house. So any help getting merges in and reviews would be appreciated. This one is this one yours also, Darren? This looks like it. Yeah. Sonny, looks like you had a look at this one.
I think there was just some issue with testing, and I have requested Raza to fix the testing, but then everything else should be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just maybe haven't circled back on this.
Okay. Darren, this one's yours?
Yeah, this one's for me a while ago. I think I brought it up last time, I think last month or so. Yeah, just need someone to review it. This is to add support for AWS config manage rule.
Okay.
Kapil give a thumbs up to my comments, but not the thumbs up for the PR.
Sorry, this one's been probably the worst one from a pending perspective.
Do we? I guess a broader question of the group: should we be having a discussion on having people merge their own PRs, or would you like if we verbally in this meeting say go ahead and do it? Is that something you want to see, or do we want to continue to?
No, that's not best practice. I don't think we want to do that.
I think we can merge our own PR if other people approve it, but if you cannot approve your own PRs.
100%. That's what I'm saying.
I was just wondering if I should start looking into like doing /approve style workflows or table that for now. Because it seems that we do have a bit of a backlog. This one's yours again.
I think this is the one that we actually just talked about at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah. So
okay. Good. More WAF v2 work. Whose is this?
I believe there was actually a comment from someone on our team recently on this, Caden, who submitted WAF stuff for CloudFront and ALB as well as AppSync.
Okay.
He requested basically a change on this one. I'm not sure if there's been any commits since then though.
So it looks like we need some update on the Intuit side, right? To update. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then this one looks like it was merged. Fix issue dumping format. Wait. All right. I was just saying if it got merged since I opened the tab. Okay. That gives us a few more. Docs work is ongoing. TLDR. I fixed the edit button. So if you see stuff on the website that you want fixed, we make it really easy to just click edit and that will auto fork for you. Fix Pi version. Oh, I don't think we care about this.
7974 is mine since I'm here if we want to.
Sure.
Which I think is straightforward. Thanks for the review, Kapil. I added the deprecation. I'm working on the filter resources thing. So I don't know if there's anything else to talk about.
I think it needed test, but also think this is super cool functionality. I want to say thanks for working on it.
Yeah. What did you say needed what?
Test. Like it didn't have any.
Oh, yeah. I kind of figured that out myself late yesterday. So I think I can muddle through the testing framework. If not, I will reach out.
Yeah, Mike, I think we had talked a little bit about that one, about possibly trying to use, because we sort of have support for deprecating features. And I think you said that you had taken a look at that and said, all right, we don't really have that in practice. Not sure I want to guinea pig that.
Yeah.
But,
so look, it was one line of code. I put it in. I'm not quite sure how to make it work.
Okay.
But
you did make that change. Oh, okay, cool. Oh,
I haven't
I'm behind,
I'm
man.
doing it while we
it does
meet
not
here.
really. Yeah, like you don't really have to make it work. You can testing if you want to test it. You don't need, doesn't need a unit test, but you can have a policy with the old filter and then run validate on it, and it should show a deprecation warning in the output.
Okay, that's what I wasn't sure if I have to do it with validate. So I have another bug in validate to fix. I told AJ about. I'll do that. There's a nested YAML anchor problem with it that I'll fix and push that.
Cool.
Cool.
Let's see. I think the last one that we have is Graviton support for serverless. Someone boomed this.
Yeah, that was me. This is just open for review, but it's a big change, so no rush on this one. But I just want to make sure we get this right. The other PR that I had, Sunny went ahead and approved it yesterday, so I'm good on that one.
Yeah,
Thanks, Sunny, for that.
the Graviton one overall looked fine to me. I just don't have an ARM64 machine to test on, so.
Yep. That's the pain. I had to like switch between machines to kind of like test it. But yeah.
My dev server in AWS is a Graviton, so I can check it out. But I looked through the code. It looks fine.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right. I don't have anything else boomed. Anything jumping out at anyone here? Are these other PRs here?
I've added one more in chat.
Okay, got you.
Should be a small one to have someone take a look at. Kapil already looked at this, and the feedback was the unit test needs to be fixed for the assume session. We need to mark that out, so we have updated the code to mark that out.
Okay.
Cool. I mean, this one's pretty straightforward. If anyone else wants to take a look, like it's, I can go ahead and approve it. Like I think it was just I think I already approved it actually. It was just a test, right?
Let me check. Yeah, it actually has already been approved.
Yeah.
Just gonna update it and approve it to. You just did. Cool.
Yeah, I just did.
Nice.
Oh, look at that. The magic of GitHub. All right. We're done 7 minutes early. Anyone have any other outstanding agenda? thanks you all for coming today. I was feeling a little bit sick today, and all the energy and discussion you all are bringing have made my day. So I really appreciate that. All right. And with that, recordings and notes will be published out either later today or first thing tomorrow. Thanks, everyone, and have a good day. Appreciate you showing up. See y'all next time. Cheers.
Enjoy.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Cheers.
Yes.
Feel better, George.